Hello everyone, I am Captain Cockings as always,
And I am Commander Foley, as always.
and welcome back to another episode of Trekyards, your weekly dose of Star Trek ships. We've got a very special episode today for you guys. Now, something we don't ever get, really, on Trekyards is new Trek, brand new Trek, and we are here following a brand new announcement. So, normally, as you know, we look at a Trek ship from the Trek universe, but today we have a fascinating one. It could cause some controversy. There's a new Star Trek show coming out, and we've got a brand new image and some brand new shots of this new Enterprise. This Constitution class is the name, Enterprise. And I know at first glance it may cause some controversy. It's a buzz on all the internets because it is very different to what we've grown up with from '09 Into Darkness and any new Enterprise. You know, the legacy of the Enterprise. You know, it's going to be a bit of a hubbub. So, Stuart, what were your first impressions on seeing this ship for the very first time?
Well, as you know, we were lucky enough to get a few pre-production models and stuff. Exactly, yeah. Um, it just seems kind of spindly and uninspired. You know, just random geometric shapes all thrown together. I don't know. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, it just doesn't have the same classicness that we see in our beautiful Enterprise.
I mean, this
Yeah,
Enterprise
yeah, exactly.
obviously.
Look at that thing.
Yeah, we obviously had this Enterprise in 2009, and it started the real Star Trek revelation. You know, in 2004 we had the Enterprise show, which was our first bit of the Star Trek world. Got cancelled, unfortunately, possibly too soon. We don't know. And then we got this great new movies, you know, to really remaster it, bring it back in the 21st century. And we got this elegant, up-to-date, functional, just killer design. And to be given this new design, I mean, it's a strange one, and we're going to dissect it today and look at this photo, and as we always do, see what we do and don't like, and possibly even, you know, if the guys are watching, maybe things to improve for the next version, a refit even. But the first thing I want to bring up is the thing that you guys tend to hear me say. It's about scale. And boy, from what we've heard, these guys are not thinking about scale. We know our Enterprise is around 718 meters long. The Kelvin, which was from the '09, was around 315. If you go all the way back to the original Enterprise, the NX-01 225, and this new Constitution class, and again, remember, our version is 718, around the same time period, guys. This is even technically newer, only 289 meters. My God, I mean, it's not to scale, but it gives you a sense of this is sort of what you're looking at. I mean, it's ridiculous proportions.
We know what size Enterprise was. Okay,
Yep.
so naturally the next step would be bigger, bigger, bigger.
Which was
This one's
the Kelvin, natural.
yes, this one's roughly just a little bit bigger than the NX-01, and it's kind of strange evolution-wise. And it only has a crew of 400. I mean, really, how can you operate a ship with only 400 personnel? I mean, you're going to be out in space for a long period of time.
5-year mission. That's what they're going on for the Beyond, aren't they? This new film that's coming out this year. 5-year mission.
Yeah.
How? It's not functional. Again, this is the ship that we all think of as the flagship of the ship that will carry us into the stars. And so for the new production team to go back a huge amount of steps into a parallel timeline, which we know they're not going for our same prime timeline, they're doing an alternate verse. Maybe that explains why it's so much smaller, but I don't see how it's practical. I just don't.
Yeah, like, sure, technology doesn't decrease in size as it gets more advanced, but we think the ships need to get bigger. That would just make sense evolutionary
Well,
wise.
larger crew, bigger mission scale, more tech on board. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. They have, 20, 30 shuttles for a reason. I mean, we've looked at some of the internal stuff. And this ship, again, it's meant to be, we believe, possibly a flagship, the state-of-the-art vessel. It only has 2 shuttles. Again, you're going out into the great breadth of the galaxy. You can't even escape on 3 shuttles. Even the command crew barely. You know, this is a functional, well-designed ship. And I think it cut corners. And a lot of it just doesn't make sense. You know, especially if you consider, like I said, the Kelvin 2 Constitution class. I mean, again, this is not exactly the right scale. They're about the same size, but you look at the engines, look at the deflectors, look at the pieces. I mean, it doesn't feel like a natural evolution. I think they've just gone a different direction.
And keep in mind, too, that the Enterprise is supposed to be the flagship and a heavy cruiser. So it should be bigger than the Kelvin for sure, not half the size. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where this new universe thinks it's going with its technology, but it just doesn't seem to me to be something that's an advancement, much of an advancement anyway, over the NX.
I think you've got to really appreciate that, the films that we love, they have a big budget. They have studios fully behind them wanting to make the best content possible. That also feels like the future. I mean, the NX-01 was a nice little step. This is the future, all these cool touch things and, the great bridge and all the different panels. It's really, really functional. This new show is a much smaller budget. They clearly, we've seen some set photos and they've clearly downscaled. I don't know what the budget is. I don't want to speculate, but possibly the scale is just because they don't have the money. But if you're gonna brand it Star Trek, we know what Star Trek is. We know the legacy of the Enterprise and the world, and to make us try and believe this odd, plain. I mean, you said spindly. That's a great example. I mean, look at these engines.
Mm-hmm.
Does that even make sense structurally? I know it's a smaller ship, but does that make sense? Look how integrated the Kelvins are. And then these are just...
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of little discussion points on this that we need to address. So, I mean, I don't know. There's just, at first glance, I'm not overly impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get a little deeper into a few of the aspects of the ship, you're going to see too how different it is from our Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it just doesn't make sense to me. So, all right. So yeah, this new Enterprise was designed by Matt Jeffries. Our Enterprise was, of course, designed by Ryan Church, who did an amazing job. But this Matt Jeffries seems to take a more real-world approach to the Enterprise, as opposed to it's science fiction. You need a science fiction ship, right?
A future feel.
Something that can... Exactly, yeah. So you say the Kelvin, like, it's so much bigger than the NX, and that makes sense evolutionary-wise. The thing that stays closest to our Enterprise, I think, is the saucer section. Yeah. It's... although it doesn't seem as detailed on this new one, it almost seems, like you said, less budget. It doesn't really work for me. There's just not enough detailing and whatnot on the saucer.
I mean,
what is your approach to the saucer?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, well, the saucer from the JJ films, our Enterprise, they've got this great paneling lines. You can see the hull plating. You get these great reflections. You've got super nice detailed bridge area. You've got these impulse engines. You've got just everything feels connected and together. And the window, I mean, come on, all those amazing flybys. You get a real sense of the crew at work, and they're going to do more stuff with that in the future. Just it gives you so many story potentials to be able to fly through that window, to be able to see past it, to be able to I don't know. It's such a visceral thing. And then you look at this new Enterprise, and it's just basically the saucer has almost no detail to it. And I've seen some conceptual ones where they do add a little bit of hull detailing, like the Church Enterprise, and that would be great. But the one they've chosen just isn't very detailed. You've got this just bubble. You've got very dull, nothing really there. I mean, you've got these interesting panels. I think they're meant to be landing legs, which is interesting. I mean, that says something, I guess, but it's just plain. And again, in this day and age of technology, why are you making something so simple? Especially, I mean, come on, compare it to the NX-01. I mean, that is detail heavy. You can see the plates, you can see everything. There's no sense of one to the other when you consider the Kelvin, when you consider it just...
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount you can go for in suspension of disbelief. This is the Star Trek universe. We know the evolutionary line. We know why. We know what the technology looks like. And to go so sideways, there's got to be a huge reason. We don't know what yet. I hope there's an explanation. Something to do with time travel, maybe. Don't know.
And the interesting thing you just brought up was the window in the front. Because, yes, we get good pans. We can see the crew inside. Yeah. That makes sense. You got a window. You can see what's going on. You can overlay your computer graphics and zoom in and stuff. I mean, one of the early shots I've seen from the new show coming out is they actually pan into the top of the bridge. Like, there's a window on the top of the bridge.
A skylight.
Does that make... Yeah. And there's no visible front window. It's just they must use some kind of, like, the sensors or something to display on the screen or something.
You're telling me that, just like the old sailors, they're using that Sustain, whatever it's called, to go by the stars? Is that how they're doing it? They look up, so, oh yes, Alpha Centauri's that way. I mean, what's the functional reason for that? I mean, a window, it's got shields, they've got armor that can go along that. What skylight? Yeah, great choice, guys.
And what happens if you lose power to your ship? Oh, you're totally blind on your bridge. You don't have any way to look outside. You have no visual references at all. I
Yeah.
mean, that makes no sense because power goes down. I mean, sometimes backup power fails even.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I suppose though in that
uh,
situation though you are sort of blind and you're sort of doomed anyway. But yeah, on our Enterprise, that shouldn't affect almost anything because you can still see, you can still, absolutely. That's a great point. But can we talk about the size of the bridge? That's a big thing that I'm really surprised about. Now we know the NX-01 size. It's more like a submarine. It's more compressed. It's our first interstellar craft of a large scale. That's great. We know the Kelvin size bridge, a bit bigger. I think it's not huge, but again, it's not meant to be. This is the new exploration vessel, and as in the JJ prize, your prize, it is a great sized bridge. There's multiple monitors, multiple consoles, standing stations, back stations. You can really, well, in terms of filmically, you can run a camera and move it all around, all different angles, and you get such a visceral, feel. You can do so much with it. And I've seen some set photos, and this bridge for this new Enterprise. I mean, why? That's my question. Why make it so small? Why make it feel so compact?
yeah, and what's with the really bright primary color palette? Like you got your reds, your blues, your yellows. It's in your face, and it's not as bright a working environment. The
Mm,
consoles are black. It's kind of a dull
mm.
gray, almost battleship or submarine, like we said earlier, submarine kind of feel to it. It just doesn't feel like science fiction. In your face, bright, functional
I
workspace.
mean, we've seen, technology, our phones. I mean, white silvers. That's technology improving. So why on earth would you have bright reds, bright oranges? It's not a color palette that anyone uses modern day, and the future is going to be an evolution of now, especially given the realism of the Star Trek we see with the pipes of engineering, the water turbines. I mean, everything is very grounded, and yet science fiction. And this one seems to be very stylized, but without any thought put into why are they so bright.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the physical buttons on the consoles yet. The
No, I
pictures
haven't.
they've released of those,
Yeah, I haven't.
they look like candies or jubes. Like they're not touch screens, but there are touch screens in other spots. It's really a weird mix of
So,
control consoles.
what did they just go through? Did they go to their so low budget? They just went to a couple of car boot sales and found whatever they could. This is a television show that's meant to represent the future, and you're using sweets.
Well, it looks like that. I don't know. I just
But the NX-01, we know exactly the technology that ship has. We know the Kelvin. That uh, maybe perhaps maybe an alien race, maybe the Federation. If there is Starfleet in the Federation, maybe some other race is the head race, and they're changing the design aesthetic to their culture, perhaps, because it is such a stark difference. Maybe it's well, it can't be Vulcans because planet's destroyed. Maybe it's I don't know. I don't know enough about the individual alien races of it. Maybe it's Scotty's best friend. Maybe it's that guy's race. Possibly. Maybe they need the bright colors because their eyes can't see muted colors. Maybe that's his culture's style. Well, it kind of makes sense. Maybe for a smaller creature, you can press
yeah.
bigger buttons. Possibly.
Anyway, speaking of simplifying thing, let's move on to the engineering room. Now,
uh,
our engineering room
yeah.
is huge. It's got machinery. It's actually things that could make a ship like that move. Their engine room consists of like a bank of panels, some things in the middle of the room that are just kind of sitting there, and like this tunnel. I don't even know what it is. It's too simplistic for a ship. I mean, of that size, I was going to say, but it's not the size of our ship, so it makes sense that maybe it's a little bit smaller for the smaller ship. But do you actually see that being a warp reactor in there, like an actual?
Well, we see our Enterprise, the first iteration, has the pipes, has the sort of lower tech, more Kelvin style engineering. But the refit for Into Darkness has a full on core. We see its deuterium tanks. Like we see a real engine mechanical. It feels like just a bigger brute force upgrade to the NX-01's engine. That works fine, especially for the Kelvin. And this new Constitution class engine room. I mean, come on, it's a little room that feels like it could be the most generic. I mean, there's nothing in it that screams engine, nothing whatsoever. It could be the laundry room, and you just throw it into that big tunnel, and it's a tumble dryer. There's nothing that says engine, so I mean, who designed that? Again, it comes down to form follows function. We know exactly the style that the Enterprise is meant to be. We know it's functional. We know the pieces look real, and this is just a room with some stuff in. I don't see engine in that.
Well, I've heard too, like it only has one warp core apparently. I mean, we have multiple warp cores because
Yeah.
things fail. You mean you need, I don't know. Plus the fact that our warp core is supplemented by the steam power of our the brewery and stuff. Right? We got the cooling systems going through the engine. we've got the water system and the cooling system going through the engines to keep them cool. That's why we got our blue glow. Like, what's with the red glow of these Bizarre collectors on this new Enterprise?
I think they probably just picked opposite to our one, just so it has a visual difference.
That moves me on to something else that I actually like about the new one, as opposed to ours. Is the corridors seem a lot more. They make more sense in the new one, being square and not so. They are darker, but overall, I think it's a kind of an odd color palette for their corridors, but I kind of like the design of them a lot better. They make more sense.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of our ones, just because in space you want to maximize what you can fit in the hull, and while the ship has the size to be able to have that function. I mean, possibly those circle things. Maybe there's all different circuitry is in the bits in between. So possibly that is an easy explanation. But in the form factor of a single rectangle space, I mean, that's a great design. That makes a lot of sense, and it fits into a hull neatly. Yeah, and to be fair, you don't need such a big size of corridor. I like it being brought down. I mean, we've seen a couple of set photos where several people are walking through. It's clearly big enough to have no one's rushing, no one's bumping into each other. So I think, yeah, that is probably a better design. But again, I think they just put some walls up in a soundstage. Cheapest thing.
Yeah,
possible.
It doesn't look as exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's this budget thing. It's almost like a 1960s TV budget that they're working with. I mean, seriously. Their cast is pretty good. I think they might have paid their cast a lot of the money. The actors are good. Do you think they're too old? Do you think they're too old compared to our actors? Like
that, I'm going to be honest. That is a decision that is one of the few, apart from the scale, that really does perplex me, because they're the same characters. Same characters. So Kirk, Spock, McCoy, right? Same people, and we know how old they are in our timeline because we see them. And this is meant to be around the same time, like within 5 years or so, I think. And yet, we see this William Shatner guy, Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley, I think's McCoy.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And I get the impression they're all like late 30s, early 40s. I mean, it's difficult to tell because they're sort of in that just older age range. And I don't know why they've gone that much older. Because our guys are early 20s. They are the new, fresh crew of the Enterprise. I mean, maybe space travel's aged them very much. Maybe they are just late 20s. They just look older. But to hire such radically different feeling characters, characters that have, obviously our characters have the energy, but to hire based on gravitas and style, I get the sense from these people that they're not going to be running around. They're going to be in their chairs. They're going to be doing dialogue scenes primarily. I mean, again, TV budget, fine. But they're going to rely on their acting chops as opposed to the energy of the story. And I don't know if I want that in my Star Trek. It's just so different. I've liked Leonard Nimoy and other things, in Fringe and things, but can he really pull off that angry, emotionful Vulcan that's trying to suppress it, that wants to, that's in love with Uhura? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work. If they even do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the new Kirk is kind of, we're kind of getting off topic. We should be talking about the ship, but the new Kirk seems kind of stilted and, I don't know, just...
Well, we've only seen a couple of clips. We don't know if he gets better.
I know.
So...
To be fair, maybe he's under some alien influence in those clips. We don't know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's for the stilted acting, but anyway.
Yeah. But they do feel like it should be their father, like their parents. It feels like they're that much older, which doesn't make sense continuity-wise. We know exactly how old they all are. I don't know what they're going for there. Maybe our Star Trek is to appeal to, my generation, the young generation, and this Star Trek is meant to appeal to the oldies, the 50s, the 60s. I don't know, maybe the guys who are going to be sitting down watching TV, whereas we're on our treadmills while watching the movies. I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
So, during our shows, we always do least favorite, most favorite about this ship, and, everything's got its good, everything's got its bad.
Yeah.
So, what's my least favorite thing about this brand new Enterprise design, which... Anyway, still not used to it. My least favorite things, I think, are the size, the spindly, thin little nacelle struts, and those big, proud Starfleet banners on the nacelles. Like, why are you advertising, who you are? And the colors are just all wrong. The reds, the reds and the grays are kind of like, really? I mean, I like the bright blues. I like the The white of the ship really contrasts well with the blue, I guess, against space. But I don't know. This new one is just kind of toned down.
Yeah, I mean, my least favorite thing about this design, the scale doesn't make a lot of sense, doesn't fit continuity, spinning the sails. I mean, you're right about all those things. The bridge module is way too small. The deflector, it looks what looks like a copper dish. And come on, guys, if you run out of materials in your space flight, I mean, come on. Look at this deflector; it's incredible. There's technology, and it's clearly functional. It moves. I mean, one of the big least favorite things. Again, we haven't seen much of the show yet, but in 2009 in Darkness, we see all the weapons turrets open up fire. Everything's functional. Everything's there. We know the torpedoes are. We know where the phasers are. We know where the pulse turrets are. And on this ship, it's just this smooth hull. I mean, we've heard rumours, and again, linking the submarine feel of the NX-01, that those little tubey things at the front might be weapons of some kind. We don't know if they have the torpedoes or the phasers or the phase cannons, or we don't know what they have. And I think it's maybe the heavy cruiser. No, on the further down. Yeah, near the white thing, near the. Yeah, I think around there. Again, you just don't know. It could be interesting. This new show could be interesting. It could be. I just hope they link to continuity. At least the NX-01. The fact there's a previous Enterprise. There needs to be some sort of chart in a rec deck that shows multiple paintings. It needs to have the NX-01. It's part of the legacy. If it doesn't, it's a problem, but we'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should talk about what we like best about this ship now, our favorite things, because we kind of touched on our least favorite things. Yep. Like I said earlier, one of my favorite things is the transporter room. I kind of like the look of that, the way it's laid out. The bridge layout, I don't have much of a problem with. It kind of makes sense-ish. But I'm not happy with the colors, and really those upper computer displays look like they're almost like paper. They have like wrinkles in them. From what I've seen, I hope they fix that. I hope that's just pre-production stuff, and they fill that in with like CGI or something. But not much else I really like, except maybe the impulse engines. They kind of hold true to what our impulse engines look like. So, I don't know. That's kind of my favorite list, and that's about it for this thing. Sorry guys.
Yeah, it's onto my favorite things, and like we've said, every single show, there's always got to pick a favorite thing, least favorite thing. And so, aesthetics are important with a ship, and I do like the more organic feel. It's less of a machine. I don't know what that means exactly, but I kind of like that feel. I like actually the Bassards quite a lot. The blue is technology, is sleek. Always a good word. Come on, sleek. The orange, although it's like linked to fire, it feels very energized. It feels like the core is very active. And while we have the great spinning blades of our Enterprise, I kind of like the multiple colors. Kind of like Christmas lights. Kind of like that multiple things. It looks cool. I'll give it cool. Although fundamentally, one of the important things about the engines in the JJ Prize is that, there's a water filtration system like you said. There is... that's how they recycle their water, is through the engines. The blades, you pump it all the way through, it turns the energy, re-synthesizes it. You just create this great pure water, and I don't think...
Well, yeah, the energy from the reaction in there... radiates the water, takes all the impurities out of it, and it also acts as a cooling for the rest of the warpness cell, right?
I mean, it's an inbuilt system.
And where is this new ship's brewery? I mean, how are they going to get their beer? I mean, our ship, we have an on-ship brewery where we make our own brand of beer. I haven't seen that in this ship. I don't know if that's what those things in the center of the engineering room are supposed to be, because really those are not brewery.
No, I feel like for this show, they're probably just going to redress that room and put some big tanks in, so it was a brewery. No, come on. A brewery, a proper flagship of the Federation, to make the Enterprise Ale, you need that massive room, you need those systems to link it in, and come on, it's one of the foundations of the Federation is good alcohol to be able to send out to the galaxy. Every ship has its own brewery, the Kelvin did, the Korolev does, the Armstrong, they're all so great, and it was a fun thing. When we bought that at Walmart, or your Walmart, we were Canadian, but Walmart, you can buy it. I mean, it's great stuff, great promotional, great way of earning some extra money, and I just think this new show will miss out on so many of those amazing features. But I do like the Energized. I do like the Energized. And I do like the fact that they continue the Impulse. That's nice, although it doesn't seem to be energized at all. It's a very dull Impulse. And, you know, I mean, we haven't seen the ship at warp. We haven't seen what sort of, you know, tunnel, what sort of effect they're going to do. It could be incredible. It could be the same. Again, it's warp tech. It shouldn't change that much. But we know our ship has the, you know, parts that come out. It's all functional. Everything moves. And maybe that's what these parts do, but I get a sense that they're just as if they're wooden.
Static.
Yeah, again, there's just no functionality in the ship. It seems very boring compared to our
Well, that speaking of warp tech, thank you for leading into that. Actually, the new one has like this warp. It's actually like a warp scale. You got warp 1, warp 2, warp 3, warp 4.
warp
Each
scale.
one's incrementally faster, whereas ours is just, you know, hyperspace drive, and we're in the tunnel. We're going hyperspace. We can get to Kronos in a day. I mean, apparently
Well, that's...
apparently at their highest, with the warp 1 for them is speed of light.
Yeah.
And then it just gets exponentially higher up to warp 9, I think. But I think I've heard at their highest warp, it takes them about 2.5 weeks to get to Kronos from Earth, or maybe even just to Federation or Klingon territory. Sorry, I mean, wow, impracticality much. I mean, that's going back to that realism tech. We need to be able to get where we need to go immediately.
And if we can't beam there, we need to use a ship. I mean, they're just slowing everything down. We know that NXO won't get to Kronos, and we've seen them in the show. It takes a couple of weeks as well. That's not much of an improve, is it? I mean, look how much bigger these... Come on. This ship, you know, tech has advanced to the scale of the ship. The engines are like double the size of the NX-01. I mean, come on, guys. This has the power. And it's ridiculous. I mean, I suppose that's why the engine might be so small, but...
Maybe.
A warp scale? Come on, we know Star Wars. We know it's just, you know, zoom. We know BSG. It's instantaneous. We know, you know, Slipstream from Andromeda. It's mega fast. That's how conventional fast and light is. There's no scales in anything. Even Stargate, again, hyperspace. It goes. I mean, to have such minutia and to have such warp 3.6, you know, cruising speed, I'm making things up here. Cruising speed, emergency speed, you know, safe speed. Maybe it'll even damage the environment. And I'll have to reinvent warp coils, not blades. I mean, it seems like they go into such detail of science. We don't want that. We want punch it. We're there in 26 minutes. Yes, we travelled 170,000 light years in 12 minutes. Hey, that's the story. You don't want to have to be waiting.
Next thing you know, they'll be having a show that's a spin-off where it's, you know, it takes them 75 years to get home because they got transported somewhere through a wormhole or something. Like, you know, with our tech, we'd be back home in like 2-3 days. I mean, I can just see this some kind of spin-off like that happening. Well, and it goes back to what we had a conversation about this warp speed thing earlier, you and I, and you said, why would you want to go anywhere in a car at, you know, 15 miles an hour? You can just go 150 every time and just get there. You know, why would you want to regulate your speed? It just makes no sense.
So that is it for our look at the new Constitution class. Don't even know what that means. Enterprise 1701. Any last thoughts on this brand new design?
Well, I've said it all along. The Enterprise is my favorite character from Star Trek.
Yep.
And somehow they've uglied it up by making it all like a spindly stick person of a ship.
Yep.
And with the realism, I'm just not overly happy. I'm not looking forward to it. So it just seems so uninspired and so grounded in realism that it's just like, well, who cares? I don't want to watch that. I want to watch something fantastical. And, you know, where's the functionality? Where's the brewery? It looks like they put it together on a 1960s TV budget, like I said, using like wood and cardboard. I mean, I'm just not looking forward to what's coming up. So
yeah,
that's where I am.
Yeah, closing thoughts for me. Yeah, like you say, it's going to be really interesting. But come on, we've got Star Trek Beyond coming out soon, and we'll always have the classic designs of the Kelvin and the Our Enterprise, and of course, guys, don't forget the Vengeance, the best looking ship with the best looking Starfleet hull. But that is it, guys, and this is the next ship to bear the Enterprise. We had the NX-01, we had the 1701, now we've got the 1701 alternate timeline. Not something I'm really impressed with, but something we are stuck with for now. But maybe in the future, maybe after, say, 3 seasons, maybe, might get a new refit. I hear Andrew Probert just finished working on Back to the Future 7, and he's quite a good artist. He might be able to come back and work on some sort of refit. But, I mean, come on, guys. It might just be something uglier. We do not know. Maybe they'll bring it more in line with this timeline. We don't know.
I know, like, Bring back the true design aesthetic of Starfleet with ships and like holes in the saucers and stuff. I mean, we need to see that. This
Yep.
is just too much of a departure for me.
Or at
Sorry.
least the window. At least the window. That's how evolution of tech goes. But yeah, tune in next time for another Trekyards, and we are going to look at the Kelvin and the Vengeance. Do not worry, guys. We have the amazing Eagle Moss models, the Prime Timeline versions, and they're beautiful, and the details, and we just love them here at Trekyards. And we'll keep covering new ships from this new alternate timeline as things go on. And yeah, so until next time, guys, this is Captain Cockings, as always.
And Commander Foley.
And we'll see you next time, guys.
Anyway, guys, sorry. It's Captain Foley here. April Fool's, everyone.
I'm not Captain?
Now you've been demoted again.
That was alternate us.
Anyway, Samuel,
Yep.
April Fool's Day. Ha ha ha. We love you. We love you, you old bird. Who actually was fooled by that? Seriously.
I was enjoying
Anyway,
it.
please don't hate
I was
us.
enjoying being captain.
I don't doubt that. Maybe it's time for a promotion. What do you think?
Only in the JJ verse am I a captain.
No, we'll do it in the prime. We'll do it right now. You want a promotion?
No. What? It's too confusing.
Well,
Oh,
April
that's
Fool's
fine.
Day on you because
Oh.
no, you're not getting one.
He April Fool's moved in the April Fool's video. That's terrible. Close us out, Stuart. As I knew you wanted to,
Anyway,
and they
guys.
read it for me in the script.
Brah, brah, brah. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back and join us for our regular episodes because this was a bonus one. So just don't hate us for this one because we just thought we'd entertain you guys. Anyway, guys, see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.